Hello and welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching India Today Global. We have two big stories that we're tracking. One from Dhaka, where elections are going to be held, and the second from Iran, where we have a ground report. First up, as Iranians mark the 47th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution with massive rallies in Tehran, projecting unity amid sanctions, economic strain and fears of conflict, India Today is the first and the only channel from India to witness this event. President Masoud Pezeshkian said Iran would not bow to foreign pressure, apologized for government shortcomings, and insisted the country does not seek nuclear weapons. Here is a mega exclusive and a report from Hashwat Alala.
Amid uncertainty, sanctions, and fear of war looming large, Iranians came out in a show of solidarity on the 47th anniversary of Islamic Revolution. India Today is the only and the first Indian news channel to witness this huge gathering.
India Today group is only group is present in Tehran when the tension has been coming to that particular level, when a new war front is emerging on the world map, and we have been bringing you all the clear pictures from the ground zero.
This show of solidarity also comes following protests in recent months, after Iranian currency fell way below, making the economy of the sanctioned Islamic State weaker. In 1979, Iranian newspapers carried this front-page headline when Mohammad Reza Shah left the country, a moment that symbolized the end of monarchy and the birth of a new Islamic Republic. The demonstration is also seen as a stern reply to the United States and European nations that Iran continues to hold ground amid war threats.
See, right behind me, the masses have been coming on a large scale, especially this National Day comes just after a few days when we have seen videos from all across Iran, how the riots have happened, how the people we have seen also how exactly things have been happening. But now it's basically a showing of strength by the Iranian authorities as well.
Our Iran will not bow to the excessive demands. Our Iran will not back down in the face of injustice and aggression. But we are in talks with neighboring countries with all our strength to promote peace and stability in the region.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, while addressing the crowd, said that the regime under the Ayatollah did not seek atomic bomb. He also apologized to the Iranians for the government's shortcomings and assured that the regime is doing everything to resolve the crisis faced by the people.
As the head of the government, I apologize to the noble people for the shortcomings that exist. Despite these shortcomings and deficiencies, we in the government are making every effort with all our strength to resolve all these problems firmly and resolutely. And by God's power and under the wise leadership of the Supreme Leader, we will do so.
Days after Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi met Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner in Oman and said it was a good start, President Donald Trump, during an interview, said Iran wanted to make a deal and it would be foolish if they did not work out one. The statement comes as a beautiful armada is on its way towards Iran. It is also significant as US forces in Qatar's Al Udeid, the biggest US base in the Middle East, put missiles into truck launchers. The decision to keep the Patriot missiles in mobile trucks rather than semi-static launcher stations, meaning they could rapidly deploy to strike or be moved defensively in the case of an Iranian attack.
As you know, we have a massive flotilla right now going over to Iran. We'll see what happens. I think they want to make a deal. I think they'd be foolish if they didn't. We took out their nuclear power last time, and we'll have to see if we take out more this time.
Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is in Washington and earlier said Iranian negotiations was the top agenda of his discussions, met Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Iran has insisted that it does not aim for building nuclear weapons of mass destruction, but use uranium enrichment for civilian purposes and for the interests of Iranians. With Mahashweta Lala, Bureau Report, India Today.
This is an India Today Global Mega Exclusive. Sumit Chaudhary, my colleague, is in Tehran, the first Indian channel to be there. Sumit, thank you so much for joining us from the ground. What's the situation right now? We know that there were massive protests earlier, but it seems like things have really, in terms of protests, quelled.
Well, the situation on ground seems to be very normal and calm, but the reality is the government or the IRGC or the Supreme Leader Office have been working day and night, especially because of the continuous threat from the US President Donald Trump, and especially they also come to know that when the Israeli PM has been meeting the US President in Washington, that is a major concern for them. And today, when the National Day is celebrating all across Iranian country, that particular time we have seen they use this particular day just to showcase their solidarity and especially a message to the US and the other Western countries that the people of the citizen of this country doesn't want any regime change.
Sumit, I was just going to ask you about that because you know Netanyahu is in Washington DC, like you rightly pointed out, and the Secretary of State Marco Rubio called on the Prime Minister. There was a meeting that took place. What are the concerns regarding the threat by Netanyahu that he would attack and go alone, even as he's meeting President Trump?
So the Iranian regime has taken this visit of Israeli PM on a very serious note. They already know that the Israel doesn't want any negotiation, any discussion between Iran and US, and that is why they have been focusing very seriously on this particular visit. They also claim that the Israel doesn't want this discussion to be held in a positive way, and the way the Israeli government have been negotiating with the US, that they doesn't want that the ballistic missile points should be excluded from all these negotiations and discussion. That is a major concern because Iran government has clearly mentioned that the only discussion with the Americans will be held on nuclear deal or nuclear programs, but nothing should be discussed and nothing should be discussed on ballistic missile program and other economic sanction issues.
Right. Sumit, again, you know, are the people I see that you've gone into the streets of Tehran and you've met people too. Are the people really worried about an imminent attack? And what is the situation when it comes to supply of basic necessities, etc.? Because that was really scarce and has been scarce for a while now.
So there is a sense of worried in Iranian people, but they are also very sure about this, that nobody can interfere in their country. Because today when we spoke to many people, especially not only to the local people who are gathered for a National Day march, but also to these some of the few the top officials of IRGC, they clearly mentioned that nobody can interfere in the internal matter of their country. And that is the reason why people are worried, because they are already facing economic sanctions from very long period. But on the same time, they are very confident that they are used to this, all these sanctions, they are used to all these conflict times in past also. So there are both. There is a mixed feeling in these local citizens of the Iran.
Right. Sumit, you're in Tehran at a very critical juncture. Keep tracking developments over there. We'll keep dipping into you every day for the time that you're there, and be safe. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, from Iran to the other big story, that's Bangladesh. Another exclusive report coming from the ground. Bangladesh Jamaat-e-Islami chief reacts to Hindu killings as his country is all set for sham polls tomorrow. Speaking exclusively to India Today, Jamaat chief Shafiqur Rahman said he doesn't believe in the concept of minority, as everyone is a Bangladeshi citizen. He alleged that previous governments were anti-Hindu and his party wants to get rid of this mindset. The comments of the Jamaat chief come at a time when another Hindu, Chandra Sarkar, was hacked to death by unidentified men inside his shop in Mymensingh. US Congressman Suhas Subramaniam also raised concerns over targeted killings of Hindus and slammed the Yunus government. He said that polls in Bangladesh are not free and fair and urged the US to keep a close eye. Meanwhile, Sheikh Hasina's confidant and former Bangladesh Foreign Minister Hassan Mahmood, in an exclusive conversation again with India Today, slammed the Bangladeshi government for not letting his party participate in the polls and claimed that elections are rigged and arranged. Now, we have my colleague Indrajit Kundu, who is joining me from Dhaka. Indra, thank you so much for joining us. It is indeed a very, very historic moment, so to say, because we are looking at an election under a caretaker government yet again in Bangladesh amid a lot of turmoil. What's the situation on the ground? What are you sensing?
Well, Geeta, a very, very historic moment for Bangladesh because, as you rightly pointed out, it's a caretaker government. It's been a almost 2 year long wait for, the 18 crore population of Bangladesh to get into the democratic process ever since the uprooting of the Sheikh Hasina regime, followed by the students' revolution in August 2024. So all eyes on tomorrow's election is just an overnight's wait. One can palpably feel the excitement amongst the youngsters in Bangladesh. But in a sense, the character of Bangladesh election doesn't change. It continues to remain a bipolar election. Earlier, it used to be the Awami League versus the BNP. The Awami League now remains banned with Sheikh Hasina in exile in India. So it's a bipolar contest between the BNP and the Jamaat-e-Islami, which now makes a comeback after facing a ban during the Awami League regime. So the bipolar character of this context remains.
Bipolar contest remains, but then the fact that, we are looking at a BNP Jamaat. Earlier, Indra, we were talking, and a sense that I got much earlier on was that BNP was ahead. Now, it seems like it's a neck-to-neck at a time when Awami League is not there, and their supporters will have to decide and choose whether they're going to vote, and if they do, should they, who are they going to vote for?
Well, that, of course, is the big question in Bangladesh right now, that the buzz in Dhaka. Who are the Awami League supporters going to vote for in these elections? Clearly, as I said, the buzz on the ground is that the BNP, given it's one of the grand old parties in Bangladesh, have been in power, have the experience of governance. Tariq Rahman has come back after 17 years in exile. Khaleda Zia, she breathed her last, and there was a huge outpouring of grief and support for the Zia family. Will that give the BNP an edge? Clearly, they do have one as far as the contest is concerned. But the Jamaat-e-Islami is also making a comeback. They were banned. And now that the ban has been lifted and there is, a sense of Islamist revival as far as the section of Bangladeshis are concerned, and especially the Dhaka University election, the Chhatra Shibir, which is the students' wing of Jamaat-e-Islami, they have won recently. So they are also gaining foothold, they're also gaining ground, and they really believe, the Jamaat-e-Islami, that they do stand a chance in these elections. So it's quite a competitive election between these two groups. And Jamaat-e-Islami have been able to bring together a lot of smaller parties, including the NCP, the newly launched NCP, which is a students' party after the students' revolt in August 2024. So it's going to be a very, very interesting contest, a hotly and keenly contested election, at the same time, extremely historic.
Well, Indrajit Kundu will be live on India Today Global. That's the group's YouTube channel from tomorrow early morning. All his dispatches are going to be available there. So if you're interested in Bangladesh elections, if you want to know what's happening and what is going to be the turnout like, what are the concerns and issues, please log on to India Today Global, the YouTube channel. Thank you, Indrajit, for joining me here. Now, earlier, India Today's Rohit Sharma spoke in an exclusive interview with Sajib Wazid, that is Joy, also known as Joy, son of former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, ahead of the elections. This is a conversation that took place in the United States of America. Listen in.
What are your thoughts on these elections that are taking place tomorrow? Bangladeshi community, especially in the US, that we've talked to, are not particularly happy about how things are panning out in Bangladesh. What are your thoughts?
These are completely a sham election. The reality is, of course, they've officially banned the Awami League, which is the oldest and largest party. It led the independence movement, so people have a soft corner for it. Historically, Awami League has won 30-40% of the vote, always. But unofficially, there's a ban on all progressive parties. So the third largest political party in Bangladesh, Jatiya Party, is not officially banned, but many of their leaders are behind bars. Their offices have been burnt down. Many of their leaders' homes have been burnt down, and they have not been allowed to campaign. They have not been allowed to hold public meetings. They have not been allowed to conduct any activity, really. So it's really a one-sided election where the other major party, BNP, is being allowed to run, and the Islamist party, who typically only had 5-10% of the vote, they're essentially being given an open field to play against, so that they gain an outside number of seats in parliament, far more than they would in a real election.
Is there a concern, especially given their history and their record, that this could give rise to Islamic extremism, not only in Bangladesh, but also in the West? I mean, we've seen how those people operate. I mean, are you concerned at all that by having them in power, it could basically serve as a dangerous precedent, essentially, and there could be something that could also happen in the West that could probably trace back its roots to Bangladesh?
Absolutely, and that has already started under this regime. You see, the Yunus regime and the revolution, or the you call it, was really backed by the Islamists. You had the student protests, and when the Islamists saw an opportunity, they jumped in behind the protests, armed, started attacking the police, killing police, and so they, the Yunus regime was brought in by Jamaat and propped up by Jamaat. So one of the very first acts of this regime was to release all convicted terrorists from prison. These were terrorists that our government had arrested and convicted over 17 years. These included the killers of the bloggers, that we had a spate of those in Bangladesh. These included the killers of the US Embassy local staff that happened. These included the perpetrators, the terrorists that carried out the largest terrorist attack on foreigners in Bangladesh, which was the Holy Artisan Bakery attack in 2016. All of them were released from prison by the Yunus regime. You have had Al-Qaeda and Asia operatives that are known to intelligence agencies operate freely in Bangladesh in the last year and a half. You've had Harkat al-Jihad holding public rallies openly. And you've had LET commanders from Pakistan go to Bangladesh, speak at public events openly during this regime. So nothing's going to change. Terrorists have a free reign in Bangladesh now, and that will continue with Jamaat being in government.
Now, Government of India informed a parliamentary panel that India will continue to import crude oil from countries where it is cheap and of the best quality. And the Indian oil companies will purchase oil considering the geopolitical situation and non-sanctioned sources. Parliamentary Standing Committee on External Affairs, headed by Congress leader Shashi Tharoor, was briefed by top officials of the Ministries of External Affairs and of Commerce. Tharoor described the briefing as extremely effective, attended by 28 of the 30 members. Tharoor also said more details about the India-US deal will come after finalizing the interim agreement with the United States of America.
Government side answered very fully, and I thanked both the Foreign Secretary and the Chief Negotiator for the very candid and full answers we got. But some details will have to await, particularly with regard to the US, will have to await the interim agreement, which is not yet ready. This is a framework that has been announced in the joint statement. The agreement will come out next month.
They've started ramping back up purchases of American energy and energy from other sources. We've talked to them about oil from Venezuela. Remember, before 2022, the Indians did not really procure Russian oil. It's really an artifact of the Russia-Ukraine war and the discounted oil they could get.
Now, a shooting at a school in British Columbia left 8 dead, including a woman whom police believed to be the shooter, while 2 more people were found dead at a nearby home. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police said more than 25 people are injured, including 2 who were airlifted to hospital with life-threatening injuries after the shooting at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School. School shootings are rare in Canada. Investigators had identified a female suspect but would not release a name, and that the shooter's motive remained unclear. Well, that's all in this show from me. Thank you for watching. But before I go, Britain's Prince William played in an esports tournament in Riyadh as part of the second day of his trip to Saudi Arabia. He was joined by the chairman of the Saudi Esports Federation and the Arab Esports Federation at the Saudi Esports Federation Arena. The visit by the prince came at the request of the UK government as it aimed to improve relations with Saudi leader Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Goodbye and take care.